There's a quiet epidemic destroying the most disciplined people you know. Entrepreneurs who wake at 5 a.m. Athletes who track every macro. Students who study 6 hours daily. Professionals who optimize their schedules. Do everything right. And yet, they can't think clearly past 2 p.m. They sit at their desks, staring at screens, feeling their minds turn to static. Words blur. Decisions paralyze them. That razor-sharp focus they had at dawn? Gone. Replaced by a suffocating mental haze that no amount of coffee can pierce. They blame sleep. Blame diet. Blame stress. They're wrong. Spring, 1614. The forests outside Kumamoto. Japan was entering the Edo period, a time of relative peace after centuries of war. Samurai who'd spent their lives in combat now faced a different enemy, the slow decay of a mind without purpose. A young swordsman named Takeshi spent 12 hours daily in meditation and sword practice. But every afternoon, his thoughts scattered like autumn leaves. This is the story of how he discovered something the modern world has completely forgotten. If you don't understand what I'm about to show you, you'll spend the rest of your life fighting a battle you can't see, one that steals your clarity, your presence, your power to think. In this video, you'll discover the 5 disciplines the samurai used to maintain unshakable mental clarity from sunrise to moonrise. Not through stimulants. Not through force. Through understanding the invisible architecture of consciousness itself. The mountains of Kumamoto province. The air smelled of pine and wet earth. Mist clung to the valleys like breath on cold steel. In a modest dojo carved into the hillside, 20 samurai trained under Master Yaju Jubei, a legendary swordsman who'd survived 43 duels without a single defeat. Takeshi was 22 years old when he noticed his mind betraying him. He'd been training since childhood. 12 years of sword forms. 8 years of Zazen meditation. 5 years studying strategy under 3 different masters. He could draw his blade and strike in 0.4 seconds. Could sit in meditation for 3 hours without moving. Could recite the Hagakure from memory. But he had a problem that no amount of discipline could fix. Every day, without fail, around the hour of the sheep, roughly 2 p.m., his mind would fog. His sword forms became mechanical. His meditation, restless. His strategic thinking, sluggish. He tried everything. Fasting longer. Meditating more. Sleeping earlier. Training harder. Nothing worked. Other students noticed. Whispers in the practice hall. Takeshi could feel their eyes during afternoon sessions, watching him struggle with forms he'd mastered years ago. The shame burned worse than any blade wound. He didn't know that his entire understanding of mental clarity was about to shatter. One afternoon, after a particularly humiliating training session where he'd stumbled through basic kata like a novice, Takeshi sat alone in the courtyard. His head throbbed. His thoughts felt like they were moving through mud. Master Yaju approached silently. He moved like smoke, decades of combat training compressed into every step. The master said nothing. Simply stood there, watching cherry blossoms fall into the koi pond. Finally, "Your mind is not clouded, Takeshi. It is screaming." Takeshi looked up, confused. "Come with me tomorrow at dawn. Bring nothing but your attention." What followed was a 4-day training that would transform not just Takeshi's clarity, but his entire understanding of consciousness itself. The first week was psychological torture. Master Yaju didn't teach sword forms. Didn't guide meditation. Didn't offer wisdom. Instead, at dawn each day, he had Takeshi perform a single task, sit in the courtyard and count his breaths. But with one rule, every time his mind wandered, he had to stand, walk to a bucket of mountain water, splash his face, return, and start the count over at 1. The first morning, Takeshi made it to 4 breaths. His mind rebelled. Every breath felt like forever. Every thought that arose, and they arose constantly, meant walking to that bucket. Why is training so easy for the others? Walk to bucket. This is pointless. Walk to bucket. I should be practicing sword forms. Walk to bucket. 27 times that first morning. 27 walks to that bucket. His mind screamed, "This isn't training. This is humiliation." But he continued because he'd seen Master Yaju cut through 5 opponents without a wasted movement, his mind clear as still water even in chaos. The second day, 31 trips to the bucket. The third day, 29. By day 4, something strange happened. Takeshi began to notice something he'd never seen before. His thoughts had a pattern. A rhythm. They arose in clusters. After meals, fantasy thoughts, planning thoughts. Mid-morning, judgment thoughts about other students. Afternoon, that familiar fog, but now he could see it wasn't fog at all. It was exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion. Mental exhaustion from something he couldn't yet name. Master Yagyu watched from the dojo entrance, silent as stone, as Takeshi made his 14th trip to the bucket that morning. "What do you notice?" the master asked. "My mind won't stop," Takeshi said. "No," Yagyu replied. "What do you notice about when it won't stop?" Takeshi paused. Thought back over the morning. After I think about what I need to do later. After I plan. The master nodded once. "The fog you feel each afternoon isn't your mind clouding. It's your mind collapsing from invisible labor you didn't know you were performing." He gestured for Takeshi to follow him. Day 12 brought a shift that would change everything. Master Yagyu led Takeshi to a different part of the training ground, a narrow path through bamboo forest. The morning light filtered through stalks, creating shifting patterns of shadow and gold. "Walk this path," Yagyu said. "Count to 100 breaths while walking." But, he held up a hand, "Your eyes must track the patterns of light on the ground. Not the path ahead. Not the destination. Only the light." Takeshi's immediate thought, "How will I know where I'm going?" But he didn't speak. He began walking. Step. Breathe in. Step. Breathe out. Eyes on the shifting patterns of light filtering through bamboo. His mind immediately pulled toward the path ahead. Where does this lead? How far is 100 breaths? What if I trip? But he kept his eyes on the light patterns, trusting his feet to find the path. Breath 47, something strange happened. During a span of perhaps 5 breaths, no more than 30 seconds, Takeshi experienced something he'd never felt in all his years of meditation. Complete silence. Not the silence of an empty room. The silence of a mind that had stopped splitting itself. For those 5 breaths, there was no Takeshi observing the light. There was only light. No one walking. Only walking. No effort. No strain. No mental commentary narrating the experience. It felt like taking off armor he didn't know he was wearing. The moment passed. His mind returned with a thought, what was that? And immediately, the separation returned. The sense of me watching the world. But now, Takeshi knew something that would change everything. The fog he experienced each afternoon wasn't random. It was the accumulated exhaustion of spending every waking moment as a divided self. One part experiencing, another part narrating, planning, judging, comparing. That night, he couldn't sleep. His mind kept returning to those 5 breaths of silence. Pause. The samurai had a term for what Takeshi experienced, Jikan, just doing. Not me doing something. Just the doing itself. But understanding it intellectually and living it was separated by an ocean of practice. Master Yagyu knew this. Which is why the next phase of training would push Takeshi to his absolute limit. Takeshi intensified his practice with an obsession that worried the other students. When eating, he became eating. No thoughts about taste. No planning the next meal. No judgment about the food. Just the sensation of chewing, swallowing, the body nourishing itself. When cleaning his quarters, he became cleaning. The rhythm of the brush against wood. The scent of water and soap. The motion itself. When practicing sword forms, he became the form. Not Takeshi performing a kata. Just the sword moving through space. The other students thought he'd lost his mind. They'd catch him standing in the courtyard, utterly still, watching rain fall into a puddle for 20 minutes. "He's broken," one whispered. But Master Yagyu watched, said nothing, waited. Day 27 brought the real test. A senior student named Hideaki challenged Takeshi to a sparring match. Hideaki was fast, one of the finest swordsmen in the dojo. He'd been training 2 years longer than Takeshi and had never lost a practice duel. Old Takeshi would have been thinking, his stance is better than mine. Everyone's watching. If I lose, they'll know the training isn't working. I need to strike first. Watch his shoulder, he telegraphs his attacks. New Takeshi simply entered stance. No thoughts. No strategy. No fear. Just readiness. Hideaki attacked, a lightning-fast strike toward Takeshi's left shoulder. Something miraculous happened. Takeshi's body moved before his mind could form the thought block. His sword was already there, redirecting Hideaki's blade, his own weapon moving in a fluid counter-strike that stopped 1 inch from Hideaki's throat. Total elapsed time, 0.7 seconds. The watching students went silent. Hideaki stepped back, eyes wide. "How did you? You didn't even react. You just moved." Takeshi stood there, equally stunned. He hadn't decided to block. Hadn't chosen the counter-strike. The movement had simply occurred, flowing through him like water finding a path. Master Yagyu stepped forward from the shadows. "Mushin," he said quietly. "The mind without mind." That evening, the master called Takeshi to his private quarters, a rare honor. The room smelled of green tea and old wood. Moonlight cast shadows across calligraphy scrolls. "Takeshi," Yagyu said, "do you understand what happened today?" Takeshi struggled to put it into words. "I didn't think. I just acted." No, the master's voice was gentle but firm. There was no I to act. When the mind divides itself into experiencer and experience, thought and action, there is always delay, always friction, always exhaustion. He poured tea with movements that seemed to exist outside time. What you call brain fog is not a medical condition. It is the natural consequence of spending every moment in a state of mental splitting. One part of you experiencing, another part narrating, a third part judging, a fourth planning what comes next. Takeshi felt something click into place. By afternoon, Yagyu continued, "You have spent 6 hours maintaining this division. It is exhausting in ways you cannot see. Like holding your breath without realizing it. The 5 disciplines I will teach you are not methods to prevent fog. They are training to prevent the splitting that creates the fog." Before we continue with Takeshi's story, we need to understand what was actually happening in his brain. Modern neuroscience has discovered something the samurai knew 400 years ago. Your brain has 2 primary networks that compete for energy, the default mode network and the task positive network. The default mode network activates when you're thinking about experience, narrating, planning, remembering, judging. It's the voice in your head. The mental commentary. The sense of me separate from what's happening. The task positive network activates during direct engagement, when you're fully absorbed in immediate experience without narrative overlay. Here's the critical part. These networks are inversely correlated. When one activates, the other suppresses. You cannot simultaneously narrate your experience and be fully present in it. When Takeshi practiced Jikan, just doing, he was training his brain to reduce default mode network activation. His morning counting practice wasn't pointless repetition. It was deliberate training to notice when the DMN hijacked his attention. Every time he caught a wandering thought and walked to that bucket, he was strengthening his capacity to notice the split the moment it occurred. This isn't mysticism. This is measurable neuroscience. Studies on experienced meditators show significantly reduced DMN activation compared to novices. Their brains spend less time and energy maintaining the narrative self. Result? Sustained mental clarity without afternoon crashes. But there's more. The samurai didn't have fMRI machines, but they understood the principle perfectly. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary swordsman who won 60 duels and wrote the Book of 5 Rings, wrote, "In strategy, it is important to see distant things as if they were close and to take a distance view of close things. The warrior thinks neither of victory nor defeat, but merely fights insanely to the death." This is Mushin, the mind without mind. Mu equals nothing, Shin equals heart mind, literally no mind, but the deeper meaning is mind without self-consciousness. Not unconsciousness. Not thoughtlessness. But consciousness without the overlay of a separate observer. Master Yagyu explained it this way, the mind that clings to nothing is the mind ready for anything. But there's a deeper layer most people miss. When Takeshi fought Hideaki without thinking, his brain wasn't shutting down. It was operating through different neural pathways, ones that bypass the prefrontal cortex's slow, deliberate processing and flow through the basal ganglia where practiced patterns live. This is what modern psychology calls flow state. What the samurai called munin muso, no thought, no conception. It doesn't mean the mind stops working. It means the mind stops working against itself. The exhaustion you feel each afternoon, what you call brain fog, is your default mode network burning through glucose, maintaining a narrative self that doesn't need to exist moment to moment. Think about it. When you're completely absorbed in something, reading a gripping book, playing music, having an intense conversation, hours pass without fatigue. Why? Because your DMN isn't running. No mental narration. No split between experiencer and experience. Just direct engagement. But the moment you think I am reading or I am playing music, you've introduced the split. And with it, the hidden labor of maintaining that division. The practical mechanism works like this. Default mode network activation, increased metabolic demand, glucose depletion in prefrontal regions, reduced executive function, what you experience as brain fog. Most people try to solve this by adding more fuel, coffee, energy drinks, glucose supplements. The samurai understood, the solution isn't more fuel. It's reducing the drain. You experience this every time you check your phone mid-task. That tiny interruption? It's not just a distraction. It's your DMN firing up, pulling you into narrative mode, fragmenting your attention across time, past and future, instead of presence. The fog doesn't come from the task. It comes from the divided attention you bring to the task. Now let's bring this into your life. Over the next 13 days, Master Yaju taught Takeshi 5 specific disciplines, training methods designed to reduce default mode network activation and maintain clarity from dawn to dusk. These aren't meditation techniques. They are not productivity hacks. They are fundamental retraining of how consciousness operates. Here's what Takeshi learned, translated for your modern life. Discipline 1. Sankaku no Mi, the triangle gaze. Every morning, before any other task, Takeshi would sit and practice a specific visual technique. Soft focus. Not looking at anything. Looking through everything. The eyes remain open but unfocused, taking in the entire visual field simultaneously rather than fixing on individual objects. The samurai called this Sankaku no Mi, triangle eyes, peripheral vision that sees everything and nothing. Modern application. Before checking your phone, before opening your laptop, sit for 3 minutes with soft focus. Don't try to see clearly. Don't focus on objects. Let your vision rest in peripheral awareness. Your mind will immediately want to grab onto something, a thought, a plan, an object to analyze. Notice this. Release it. Return to peripheral awareness. Why this works? Focused vision correlates with focused thought. When you practice soft focus, you're literally training your brain to reduce DMN activation. You're learning to exist without fixing attention on mental objects, thoughts, worries, plans. Common mistake, trying too hard. This isn't concentration. It's release. Do this for 3 minutes every morning. You'll notice your mind stays clearer for the first 2 hours of work. Discipline 2. Ichigyo Zammai, total absorption. When Takeshi ate, Master Yaju would ring a bell if he noticed Takeshi's attention drifting. Each task was to be completed with total absorption before moving to the next. Ichi equals 1, Gaio equals action, Zammai equals samadhi, absorption, the samadhi of one action. Modern application. Choose 3 activities today where you practice single task absorption. Your morning coffee, feel the cup's warmth. Taste each sip fully. No phone. No reading. Just coffee. 1 email response, write it fully before checking the next. Resist the urge to keep your inbox open. Write, then send. 10 minutes of physical movement, walking, stretching, exercise. No music. No podcast. Just the sensation of your body moving. Why this works? Every task switch activates your DMN. Your brain has to reconstruct context, remember where you were, plan the transition. This costs immense energy. By practicing absorption, you reduce the number of DMN activations per day from hundreds to dozens. Expected challenge. Your mind will scream that this is inefficient. It's lying. Research on task switching shows you lose 20 to 40% productivity to context switching costs. Discipline 3, MA, sacred interval. Between activities, Takeshi was forbidden from immediately moving to the next task. He had to pause. Take 3 breaths. Let the previous activity complete before beginning the next. Ma, the interval, the space between, the pause that gives meaning to action. Modern application. Between meetings, 3 conscious breaths before joining the next call. Between work tasks, stand, stretch, take 3 breaths before opening the next project. Between consumption, after reading an article, close it. 3 breaths. Then decide your next action. Why this works? The pause prevents DMN momentum. Without it, your mind carries residue from the previous task into the next, split attention that compounds into fog by afternoon. This feels like wasting time. It's not. It's preventing the accumulation of mental fragmentation that creates the fog you're trying to escape. Discipline 4. Karada no Kizu, body signals. Master Yaju taught Takeshi to notice 3 physical signals that indicated DMN overactivation. Jaw tension. Shallow breathing. Forward head posture. Karada equals body, Kizu equals wound signal, the body's warnings. Modern application. Set 3 random timers on your phone throughout the day. When they chime, check your jaw, is it clenched? Release it. Check your breath, is it shallow? Take 3 deep breaths. Check your posture. Is your head forward? Roll shoulders back, align spine. Why this works? These physical patterns both signal and reinforce DMN activation. By interrupting the pattern, you interrupt the mental splitting. Studies show that changing body position can break rumination cycles within 90 seconds. Discipline 5. Yugen no Jikan, Twilight training. Each evening at dusk, Takeshi would practice the sword forms he'd learned that day. But in near darkness. Unable to see clearly, he had to rely on proprioception, the body's sense of its own position. No visual feedback. No mental correction. Just movement. Yugen equals mystery, subtlety, Jikan equals time. The time of deep mystery. Modern application. Final 30 minutes before sleep. No screens, dim lighting, simple physical task done slowly. Fold laundry in low light. Wash dishes with full attention to sensation. Stretch on the floor, feeling each position. Why this works? You're training presence when your primary sense, vision, is reduced. This builds the capacity to remain clear even when circumstances aren't optimal. It also prevents the evening DMN spike that disrupts sleep and guarantees morning fog. Timeline. First 3 days, this will feel unnatural, even frustrating. Your mind will rebel against the inefficiency. Days 4 to 7, you'll notice afternoon clarity extending 30 minutes longer. Days 8 to 14, the fog will lift significantly. You'll catch yourself in states of absorption you haven't experienced in years. After 30 days, this becomes your default operating system. Day 40 arrived like any other dawn. Takeshi rose, practiced his disciplines, trained through morning and afternoon without the fog that had plagued him for years. But something deeper had shifted. He thought he was learning to prevent brain fog. He discovered something else entirely. Mushin wasn't just about mental clarity. It was about identity itself. The samurai understood that the self most people defend and maintain, the narrative voice, the internal commentary, the sense of me separate from experience, is both an illusion and an exhausting one to maintain. Brain fog wasn't his problem. It was the symptom of a much deeper fracture, the belief that he existed separate from his life rather than as his life. Remember the opening? The disciplined people who do everything right but still can't think clearly past 2 p.m.? Now you understand. They're not lacking discipline. They're practicing the wrong kind. They're optimizing the maintenance of a divided self rather than training the dissolution of division itself. This is what separates someone who performs well from someone who embodies mastery. Not more effort, but less splitting. Not more fuel, but less drain. The samurai understood this. Mushin wrote in Dakodo, his final text. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Not self-deprecation. A technical instruction. Reduce the metabolic cost of maintaining narrative. Self-consciousness. Redirect that energy toward direct engagement with what is. This isn't about mental clarity. This is about liberation from the invisible prison of divided consciousness. About becoming someone who moves through life without the constant friction of self-commentary. Master Yaju's final teaching to Takeshi. The fog you feared was actually a gift. It showed you the cost of living separate from your own life. Most people never notice. They spend decades in the fog, thinking it's normal. You noticed. You questioned. You trained. Now you understand, the clearest mind is the one that forgets itself. If you're ready to walk this path, if you're tired of fighting your own consciousness and ready to train a different operating system entirely, subscribe to this channel. We're building a community of people who choose presence over productivity theater, depth over speed, transformation over optimization. Mushin doesn't make you more productive. It makes you more alive. And that changes everything. Walk with presence. Live with purpose. Become unshakable.